Hey guys, how are you all doing out there? Hope you're all well. Hope that life is getting back to some sort of normalcy. And if not, well, we're here as usual. Let's go back. How are you, buddy? Nice to have you here. Always good to see you in the channel. Always nice to have somebody online with me. And up to another session of painting the last miniature I have here for 13 days equals 13 hours. So looking forward to it. It's going to be weird not needing to keep adding to the pool of militia. But got a nice model to finish with, something a bit different than the other guys. He's all balaclavaed up. Nice two-handed weapon. He's got combat boots. Not sure what we're going to do with the trousers yet. Probably some greens. He's got like an old janitor's big old jacket type thing going on. So with that in mind, I think we're going to go down a brown route for that and bring it back up to sort of a paler brown. And ski mask. I was thinking about what to do with that. I might have a bit of fun with that, with some yellow around the eyes and the mouth, and then black out the rest of it. See how that looks. We shall see. But patiently waiting for my Rubicon order to show. Oh, nice! What have you ordered, dude? What is en route to you right now? I've not got anything ordered yet. My next job is to print out Sergeant Sitrep and see how he looks. Get him on here probably, I think, next week, and get some paint on him. He's got a massive stogie, so he should have a bit of fun. We'll see how long. See if I might do it over 2 sessions if I find I want to spend a bit more time on him. We shall see. But hopefully you can hear me all right. Hopefully you can see all right. And yeah, we'll get cracking on as usual. So yeah, another week in isolation. Some of the guys going back to work now, which is quite nice for them. And I don't know. I've not heard any word yet about going back Monday, so I presume it's still June for me. So another couple of weeks. And we'll see what they say. So, jump in with the black. We're going to use the black Templar from the contrast range. You guys know me by now, those that have followed some of the other Twitches. So, we're just going to black out the combat boots to start with. Move that light just a touch. Caught it with the back of the brush then, if you heard the ting. Jim did a great episode the other day. I don't know if anybody's caught it. It was the I think it was 1940 invasion through Europe. If you have not seen it, check back through some of the recent video plays. Let's watch the hex-based game. It was Panzer, I want to say Leader rather than Blitz. I usually get the two mixed up because I think they're from the same Avalon Hill company. But yeah, it was a bit late for me on the Sunday, so I've watched it since. And yeah, they no spoilers. He goes into a nice chunk of the history. The yellow marker of doom is out at the beginning. He talks us through the sort of the fight through Europe at that time and the way the Germans did the Blitzkrieg. But yeah, it's nice little chunk of history, just enough, and then straight into a good game as well. So check it out if you've not already. The the last episode now has been recorded. I think for those that follow us on Patreon, they got a chance to hear it live. For those others, I'm not sure if it is or isn't out or not yet. But the last sort of one for this season is either just come out recently or will be out shortly. And for the podcast, we had a bit of a fond farewell to an old friend who we lost in April, as well as talking through the usual. It did devolve into Crazy USA sports versus boring English ones, which was nice. And we talked about some of the upcoming releases. I think Ralph mentioned that he'd got the new Northag stuff through. I think since then, G's posted up that some of the Northag stuff has come through to them in the US. So they'll hopefully be getting an unboxing put together for that soon. And yeah, it's been a busy period for the likes of Dawn and Gianna with all the work. Marty's sort of been at home, busy when he could be, and then not not when he ran out of things to do. Jim's pretty much been working every single day, which is crazy, using his breaks and his lunches to get in some games with the likes of Pieter and LSR, and so even though he's been able to do a lot of work from home and keep himself busy, he's certainly been smashing out the content still, which is awesome. We've been beavering on here on the channel for a little bit. So for me, it's sort of what we're looking to do next, really. The project's going to continue in the off time between podcasts, and I think G said and Marty said that they'd still be looking at putting up some content of that on the Facebook channel, and some videos on the like. Let's get that to a better angle. But so work for you's been pretty much normal then, dude. Yeah, I think it has for a lot of people, to be honest. Just going to change these lights around just a touch. Especially as some people are able to do as much from home. I've seen quite a few companies state that they'll probably keep that up once this is over as well, for a lot of their job roles, because it was just as easy to keep people at home as it was to have them in work. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of changes companies wise to what people believe they could achieve at home that's had to be implemented now. Might change the way some companies do business. It's been an interesting time, sad time, and a real challenge that's pretty much been risen to around the world. But we're not out of it yet, and there's still plenty to happen now. It's a nice model, this one. There's some detail in the skinning around the mask. I probably should have done first, thinking about it now, just because of the depth. I might have to leave the yellow till last so I can tidy up the bit of Wraithbone and then the required colours on the ski mask. But yeah, hobby's doing okay. Kind of got a mix of stuff going on at the minute. Been doing some 40k of all things, yeah, the dreaded GW's back in my life. It's been ticking along and doing some stuff for that. The 3D printer's been pretty much going on and off the whole time. And it's amazing that I do a patron to get some STL files for miniatures and some scenery and bases, and from that I've pretty much not had to buy anything for 3 whole game systems, because I'm able to use the stuff that I'm printing at home. And it does make me wonder how that's going to impact the industry over time. So I'll be playing the likes of Frostgrave, what was the other ones? Bloodfields when it comes out, which is a larger skirmish game. Empire of the Dead, which is really nice. I've got British bobbies in that, so police, with the old hats on and truncheons and stuff. It's a bit of a thematic game, that one. It's got some nostalgia to it, some local characters. And what else was there? Empire of Dead, that one. Oh, and the new Judge Dredd. So for those that are from the generation of 2000 AD, and let's be honest, it's been going a long time and still is. I've got some sci-fi characters for that I'm going to be printing out for my gang rather than using the ones from the company. Still by the rulebook and everything, so still support them that way, but really nice to have the option to use your own stuff. Each range comes with its own themed bases, so that's really nice. I spoke about doing the samurai stuff. I've got a couple here for my history. Some other historical. Hey Rasmus, how's it going? West Wind, Empire of the Dead. Yeah, that's the one, buddy. So here's one of my Japanese Yumi Bowmen, who came out really nice off the print. Loads of detail on him, so much to work with. Got a lovely flower sort of rosette on the front here. This is like got a basket weave. You can see all the basket weave sections in the. Even the hat's got every individual line. A bit further down for the focus of the sort of the straw hat. Yeah, really nice. So looking forward to sort of putting that into the historical. I've got two of those guys printed off. One of my geishas with bladed fans, which is very cool. All sprayed and primed, ready to go. So another one that I can add into my little delve into history. And then where's the one? I printed one today as well. Let's have a look. Excuse the arming shot. Just have to reach over to grab him off the windowsill. So I got this guy done today. So he's still raw in resin. He's already cured and everything, but yeah, very Shogun-esque. So these are the warriors carrying blades and in this sort of traditional armor. Again, just lovely levels of detail on the models. Came out really nice, so I chuffed to bits with that. These are all going to make up a faction for Frostgrave of all things, which is a sort of fantasy skirmish game. It just shows how you can cross some different gaming systems quite easily with miniatures from historical to. Looking into, they're releasing more soon. So stuff like Bushido, I can sort of start looking at that, and Test of Honor for a bit of historical as well. Yeah. So the good thing is, even with the podcast coming to the end of its season, the idea is to keep going. In the off season, I don't know if it'll be every week. It should be, other than those ones that I can't actually do because of work or because of other responsibilities. So stick with us through the off season, because I'll still be putting some paint on the minis, and hopefully you'll still be here to listen to me ramble on. Cool. So we just changed the camera angle a little bit there. I've also got some scenery for it, so that's going to be nice to do up some buildings and some. It's mainly scatter rather than sort of large scale scenery. But one thing I do like is the bases that they produce that are themed to go with the military. Well, they are a military, I suppose. With the armies that they produce as well. In fact, I think I've got one. It's drying on the other side of the table, which I'll have a look at in a sec. Should be dry now. I've had to teach myself some new skills. It's kind of forced me out of my comfort zone in many ways, which I think is always good. You know, because once you've been forced to learn something, then you know it. You know, and sometimes you won't have bothered to learn until you're made to for another reason, which was 100%. How that went for me. I didn't bother learning to use much in the way of 3D printing files. I didn't really have a reason to, you know. And also manipulating files to cut down and do different sizes and such. And that again is going to come back to being a good thing to have when the Kickstarter I'm in, and I think G's in as well, maybe, I'm not sure if I think Ralph might be in it, for some Vietnam scenery by Wow Buildings. I think it is. They've done some really nice stuff. The latest release from them is a Willys Jeep with a trailer, which is very cool. Scattering a wall with a gate, yeah, that's the stuff. Yeah, very interesting. Hey, see, Brenna's in the house as well. Got a fair old few of you in tonight, which is very cool. Very cool. So yeah, it's been a bit of an unusual week, really. Kind of still up in the air about what's happening with me, which makes... I don't like not knowing. I'd rather just be given a date, which I have been, but now I'm worried it's changing, or without actually knowing until it's very, very late in the day. One thing about work is they tend to be very poor with communication. You kind of find out at short notice almost everything, which can have a large impact on a lot of people's lives when they've got families and such. But hey, that's the devil I know. Cool, so we're all blacked out. So we talked about a brown for the top, and I'm going to go with some Orc Flesh contrast for the trousers. Let's give that a bit more of a shake. Oh, that was what I was going to show. So the base is... Where is it gone? It's just on the other side of the table. So I thought, there it is. So one of the bases that I managed to jack up, I still need to clean this one, still got some of the resin residue on it, but you can see sort of, it's a nice, I've had to cut a larger 120mm base down one of the seam, one of the obvious seams that was straight enough for me to do it, so actually this will be a lot wider once it's finished. And the idea is then to place in these two cutouts that I've done, again, still need to be cleaned for the resin, into it, but I have my models on them so I can get a nice little diorama going on, and I've basically put them at a really close tolerance and then filed it to actually make them fit, so we get a nice little setting for when you're at an event. I'll have a couple of miniatures on these, and there's 5 more at the top, so I can carry them around on this on top of my box, take them out to play with, put them back in, and when I get home I can put them in a nice little bit on the shelf that's all themed out. So that's another thing I've been playing with, which is really cool. It's just nice. Now, admittedly, a lot of the more modern stuff won't have those types of thematic bases. There's no real reason to. But I've got some ancient stuff as well that comes with sort of pillars, and let's see if I've got this one. Pillars with leaves on and such. So you can see these are all textured leaves in this area, all the way around this one actually, then a pillar and some cobbles. So for stuff like the Greek, you know, if you're doing a skirmish game in Greek, or the circular ones, you get square, you get all sorts. It's actually very, very good. It's very, very good. So I'm going to drab the contrast, but I'm not going to paint it straight from the pot today. We're going to chuck a bit on the palette. And just bring it down just a touch with water. I want to see if this, the last time I did this, it came out a bit glossy, but you know, we'll have a look and we'll see what it's like this time. It's always good to do trial and error with the different ones. Cheers, Rasmus. Yeah, I mean, it's took me a little while to learn how to do the that's nice, that's a bit too thin, look. Get that back off. Too thin won't do the job. Yeah, it's been a bit of a learning curve, like I say, but in the end it's going to be nice and worth it, especially for when you've got them on the shelf. I don't have a cabinet, I don't have the space for one at the moment, but I'd like to have one day, and if my forces are done like that, just dabbing that back off with tissue and we'll go straight to the pot for it. Yeah, if it's going to come out with some nice sort of thematic bases, it's nice when you're at an event when you're sort of carrying them around as well. I always go in for the painting stuff, or just to showcase what I've done, because I enjoy that side of it as part of my hobby. It's not the only part, but it's definitely a part. So having them on a nice base like that it'd be difficult for me to build so that the bases would mesh with the diorama if I got resin bases. I have no problem with doing my own bases as I've done on my Flames of War, but it's kind of nice to have a resin themed diorama base. So just a bit more robust for transport. You know, you put it in your case when it's got all your flock and stuff on, and by the time it rattled around and got to the other end, half it's fell off. The plan is to add some volume with some bamboo. So there's some areas that are like rockeries, and it's nice because it gets you into Google Images to look at stuff that's from Oriental Gardens, and some beautiful options when it comes to plant life. They're so colourful. Areas of them can often be themed very much like the sort of the film stuff, the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, the House of Flying Daggers, those types of movies where you get the autumn scene, everybody's in red, all the leaves are falling. It's just, and that's what I'm kind of aiming to do. But I'm going for the bamboo woodland scene for my Frostgrave stuff. So we'll have a play and we'll see how it turns out. So I'll do a bit of repair work on this with the greens, but that's normal for me, as you know, as it's definitely the water's moved it around quite a bit. But we'll let it dry and we'll see what it looks like. Hello Jim, glad to have you on board. Cheers for coming. Imagine you're beavering away, or maybe on a lunch now, I don't know. Uh, 3D printing my pain point. Raz. So you're struggling with what software are you using, Rasmus, for putting in your auto support stuff? If you don't mind me asking. So we're going to go with the dark brown to start with, and we'll bring it up as and when we wish, once we know where all the dark areas are on the jacket. Now, this area looks like it's skin. Obviously we've got in here in the eyes that are skin, and the hands. So we're not as heavy on skin. He has got some form of an undercoat here. But looking at the collar sort of finishes on this side here. Let's repoint that brush a bit. So on this edge, so that's like a second layer. And then the collar comes round, so there's no layer on this side unless we put a t-shirt on him. But the collar definitely finishes there, and there's definitely a second layer, which means I'll probably do that as skin to show that he's got like a shirt that's quite unbuttoned, followed by a jacket. And you've got but the problem is I've got 3 layers here. So if I do skin, that won't look right because it sticks out. So actually we're going to have to do a t-shirt, an under jacket, and then the jacket. We might come back to the green for that section to break this colour, but tie in the trousers. No, because that won't work with these 2 bits. I'll have to have a think. I'll get this other bit done while I have a think. Chitterbox. Yeah, Chitterbox is okay. I would suggest you change or try Prusa Slicer. I started with Chitterbox and I thought it was quite good. And I think Prusa Slicer's much better. There's even a self-orientation mechanism in it that you can use. Don't get me wrong, it's not always necessarily the best orientation when you watch all the videos on it and people telling you what should and shouldn't be. But I rarely have a drama now with auto supports or all that using Prusa Slicer, and often I use that to orientate it as well. So sort of right click on the object, click self-orientation, and it puts it to one that suits the settings that you've got. And if not, you can just put it to the angle you want and put that in anyway. You can set minimum distance between supports. You can do all the normal stuff. I tend to, I've shrunk mine so it leaves less damage on my miniatures. So I'm down to 0.3 depth and 0.3 in diameter now, which you can control within Prusa as well. It doesn't save to photon. It doesn't save to the Anycubic photon file type. So once I've built it on Prusa, I then have to chuck it into Chitterbox, where you can't access anything because it's kind of all locked. But the supports, you can save the file with the supports built. So I then go to Chitterbox, and all I do there is slice it and save it there so that it'll work in my Photon. But Prusa Slicer, Prusa Slicer. If you have a look online, there's some good tutorials on it. It's not an exact match. It tells you what to do to fit with the Photon if that's what you've got. And if you've got one of the other ones, just have a mooch through. There's a list of what they cover. Find one that's similar and go for it. But the keys on the mouse are the opposite way around. That was the only thing that took me just a little bit getting used to. But I'll be honest, it's for me and use and interface. I think it's so much better. So much better. I feel a lot more confident with it. It's a lot quicker for me to manage and move around, and yeah, I would definitely recommend giving it a go if nothing else. I'm thinking about getting a second printer though, not for sort of detail stuff, but for terrain. So thinking of going down one of the filament printers. I need to do some legwork on that. It's mainly down to bed size. When the Vietnam stuff comes out, it's been designed for a 200 by 200 bed. The printer I've got is probably 50mm short of that. So I'd have to slice a lot of files to print them. And you know, there's a lot of nice terrain out there that's free on Thingiverse, and I can print them all to really good detail, but I have to print them in more pieces than they normally come in just to fit them on the bloody thing, which is not ideal. Let's switch out to a smaller brush. Just working as quarantine don't mean beep, says Jim. Yeah, FDM, if you feel comfortable with it, 100%. That'd be interesting to get your feedback on the Prusa, because I've only built files for my type. I've just what sort of I'm always worried about the detail levels on the FDMs. I want to achieve good detail even on my scenery. It doesn't have to be ridiculous, but I'd like to get down to like 25 microns. I'd probably at the least 50. I think most machines do 50, but 25 would be nice. Or 0.3. It's kind of where I'm at in my head. I think one of the main reasons recently for that is the all the lovely vehicles he's done in that Kickstarter, the likes of the Willys Jeep and the F4 Phantom, and you know, there's so many really nice vehicles there, the Hueys, the Cobras, that it'd be a shame to lose some of the nice details on it. 18 by 12 at 0.2. Oh, okay, that's really good. What brand is it, please, buddy? I'll have a look at that. 18 by 12, 200 mils, 20 centimeters, 25.4 to an inch. 20 is probably about 8 inches. So yeah, that's really big then. Yeah, that'd do almost any terrain thing I think I could pick up. What's really annoying is one of the lads found a really nice file for like a European house that'd fit anywhere from World War II to modern. Well, probably pre-World War II, probably between sort of 1930 to modern, and it's just I can print the walls at the side of the windows, but I can't print the front without cutting it into more pieces, which defeats the object because it eats a lot of time up, and I'm chunking through resin that's probably more expensive than the reels are, I think. to get in the corners. It's not actually been that bad, that brown. I thought it had finished a lot darker, to be honest. There we go. Sometimes the white, the balance gets screwed up, even with me with a fixed balance. So that brown's a bit too dark in some places, but I do like this colour on the back, which gives me a colour to work from to try and match with whatever layer we chuck on it, because as you know with me, I tend to use the layers on them as well afterwards, just to clean up. I use contrast mainly just to find the dark and the light spots. It's probably the easiest way of saying it. XIDI X Plus. It is at the top end of the scale. Okay. I imagine I'll be able to get that over in the UK, so I'd rather just get what's right, because the one I've got now does everything I needed to do, and it's just the photon from Anycubic, which is the older one. Most of the others are either just a little bit faster. Well, speed's not really an issue, because I'm not in any rush to print out every model known to man. So yeah, just something that's just good quality regardless is sort of just what I'm after without paying too much. Oh, that's cool. So the customer support's good as well. To be honest, having read up on quite a lot of them now, nearly all of them have got good customer service. I think it's such a competitive market that they have to. I've heard people say they have problems with certain machines in the reviews, but they're talking about one machine, and you can't really. It's very, very difficult or unfair for a reviewer to say, well, my machine didn't work great, therefore I'm going to mark it down a bit. Well, that's just one machine. If that was a trend of cross machines, yes, I'd agree, but yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure. Another thing I've been looking into is, and Jim, you might be interested in this one as well, the some of the nicest sort of objective markers I've seen come from Battlefront Flames of War. So nice are they that I'm just interested in trying to learn how they do it. You know, I understand it's going through Malaysia, I believe Battlefront Miniatures use for most of their production, but I don't know if that counts for their token system as well, or if it's just the miniatures. In the same way that I doubt their books necessarily come from Malaysia, but they might do. Now, I'd love to be able to find out just so I can make some of my own custom stuff with a small little machine or something. But I was just blown away by the nice quality of the stuff from. I'll see if I can grab one now just to show you what I mean. Yeah, so this type of thing. So it's acrylic, it's clear acrylic onto what is obviously something stuck to the base, and it's even got a black velvet section on the bottom as well. My fingers are in a right mess, look. Wow, could tell I've been at home for too long. Just really nice quality. I love the larger ones for objectives. They're just such nice imagery on them. Even the green and everything, the design is just really cool. So I'm interested to find out how that's done, how they've achieved that. Might feel like I pay too much. Got it for a few things worth. $1,000 US dollars. I take it, Rasmus. 1,000. Yeah, it's probably a bit more than what I want to pay. But it's 1,000 now. That doesn't mean in 2 years it could be 300 quid, because the market's caught up and they've got to stay competitive, I suppose. I'll have a look at his spec. That's probably what I'm more interested in. Just don't know anything about FDMs. Cool. So, got most of the base colours down. We'll jump into the skin now. We've got some in nooks and crannies. And finish out with the under jacket. And that chest area. There's no collar at all. I'm gonna definitely have to do that as a t-shirt. There's no body form for even to work with. I'm trying to get it to look like something it's not. Hopefully it won't look as rough as this at the end. They normally don't. I hope they don't anyway. So we're chucking a bit of... so I'm just going straight to Cadian Flesh Tone today. I'm just going to wash it with this. I've started to think about a lot of my processes. If I was doing the 40k stuff that forced me to do it because of the volume of models I'm going to have to do for that, having 5 or 6 processes is nice, and taking 2 hours a mini is good for skirmish, but 2 hours a mini for 140, 150 miniatures is, well, it's terrible. That's not including clean and build time. So if I ever want to finish that project, I need to reassess the processes of how I approach it, and eliminate which ones I can for only small losses in the quality of the finish, and that's kind of where I'm at the minute. So I'm trying to apply it to everything that I do, keeping in mind that we're looking for mainly a really good tabletop standard is about it, because I'm not painting to go into any competitions with a single miniature. I'm painting to have a nice army on the table that, you know, I turn up to an event with, and, you know, say on tabletop or you know, something at an Adepticon, and the guy across me likes what he sees, and he's you know, it makes the game that much better when you've got two armies that are fully painted on the board. I was thinking the other day about something we were chatting last time, Jim. Oops, go back spinning. I missed one, sorry. Not sure if the resins are the same, but the prints on FDM work better at slower speeds. Yeah, the resins are often the same. The lift speed is key to not losing the mini. As it slowly pulls it off the plate rather than tries to pull it quickly. You often leave it in the bath and it spends 2 or 3 hours with nothing on the end of it, and you don't realise that until 2 or 3 hours later. So yeah, they definitely both don't like fast speed by the sound of it. Right, change position. Started to get it in my head now. Jim, I forgot to renew the stream key today, so I was, although the countdown went up sort of before the time it's supposed to start, I didn't actually start on time because I ran into the same thing you had. And when you said it the other day, I meant to do it that evening and then forgot. Sod's Law, Murphy's Law, whichever one flicks your switch. Definitely one of those things I should have just done it at the time. Yeah, I think size is always going to be, bed size is always going to be one of the things that you're paying for when it comes to different printer options, what you want to achieve with them. Well, the crazy thing is, on that Kickstarter, you've got, I think it was the US Embassy, Jim, we looked at, floor by floor. So printing that in 10 or 15 pieces would be a right pain in the arse. Whereas being able to print that in logical pieces, or even better, one, would be so much better. So much better. Cool. Yeah. Just need to get in. Need to give the palm of the hand some colour love. So it's going to be interesting to see how these turn out once we chuck the wash on. Shade. Still, I'm old school. Still washes in my mind. There probably are actually washes, but I do miss the glazes that they used to do. I imagine they just folded it into the range as under another name, and I just don't know the name, but I did like glazing. Looks like there might be a line there. It's difficult to tell. We'll probably find out when we get the shade in there. There's no eyes by the look of it. Certainly not on this side. It's a shame really, but then that'd be a very hard thing to achieve, I think, on metals. Eyes within a depth that these are, and it's kind of abrupt as well. And something like a dragon or something, it's kind of gradual to a heavy eyebrow, and the cheek is almost the same height as the eye, but on this it is just pinholes. Cool. So we've got the buttstock left, the under jacket and the under t-shirt, and then yellow around the eyes. I think what we'll do with I'll leave that until we just concentrate on the head bit, because we're going to be chucking wash on this as well, and then we're going to go back in for a highlight, so I think that one can definitely wait for now. Quick slurp of a drink. Oh. I think the marker is laser cut acrylic. Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's very, very, very clean. Oh, I didn't know that. So Adepticon doesn't allow any unpainted stuff. That's cool. That is very cool. Mind you, I've seen some guys, I think I might have even mentioned it on here before, where we had a guy that turned up to an event and then poured his army out of a Tesco bag. And that broke a lot of us, because we were kind of, not distraught, but just felt really sorry for the army. That the guy just didn't really, that wasn't his part of the hobby, you know? Trying to think what to do for this undertop. I think I'm going a tan colour just because of the brown jacket and another form of green for this undertop. I'm thinking of actually going back to this original green. I think we'll go the original green, and then we'll go for a tan sort of colour for the undershirt, the t-shirt. In which case we'll go. I think that's not quite a tan, but it'll not happy with that. This is where we're getting into the stuff I haven't planned now. You know what? We'll keep it simple. We'll go with a Talon brown, which is almost like a desert colour. Picked up one of the old desert t-shirts. But I think it's very important that a lot of the events to promote painting minis at least have some form of painting rules. It kind of gives you I think you'd sell more tickets for an event if you could just turn up with what you wanted, because people wouldn't feel the pressure, and all those that don't have painted could potentially turn up as well. But it's not quite the same when you look at the back of the event, and you know the photographers are out all day, and you see pictures later in a magazine or an online post or Facebook, and there's just all these stunning tables and then a bunch of unpainted armies. It just pulls away from it, you know. In fact, what we might do is we're going to make a t-shirt and then put a human neck on it. Let's try and break it up a bit. So I'm going to leave a gap to do some skin tone towards the top. It's just how much of a gap. A little higher than that, because I think it'd be nice just to break that one colour up a bit, to be honest. One thing I've not been doing is using the skin tones from the contrasts. I know a couple of them are very good for it. Admittedly, we're doing North Africa, which tends to be a darker skin tone, and some of the guys we've done are very, very dark skin tones, the likes of sort of, you know, the hotter parts, the central and south, and we wanted to achieve a real contrast in skin tones, which I think we have. Alright, just tidy the top up again. Get it ready for the thinking how to lighten or darken it. I might wash that actually. And then I've still got some skin tone on the palette. It's a wet palette, so it's still good. We'll jump in on the neck and see what we shall see. Hopefully. Must be concentrating. Sometimes I can't talk. Cool. Pressure on to paint a few pirates. You say a few. You have a lot of pirates. At least they weren't the, what was it, 8 men for 2 points that you said last time when we got the numbers mixed up. That would have been a mighty force. It'd be like orcs, Skaven on the board, but for blood and plunder. So I will rarely get to play the games that I have models for, mainly because I don't paint them and I don't like playing without painting them. I am getting better at that though. Doing stuff on video for SitRep has sort of prodded me to get better at doing it a bit more for everything, which is really nice. Just going to grab some Gothar Brown today for the buttstock, and oh, never opened this one before, so that's definitely going to need a shake. It's a brown one. I got some new ones recently. Fill out the gaps in my layers. The first was 60 or so. So most of the time it's going to end up on the shelf, which is kind of why I showed you that base earlier. It's just going to collect dust and maybe get a run out every now and again. But instead of going too far with things now, I'm just looking at doing a single force for all the different games I like, be it Spectre, be it Bolt Action, just whatever really. And that kind of takes the pressure off in many ways. The pressure now is picking the right force, the one you like enough that even if something else came out you'd still like it, which I think is very easy to do. Lots of these games now have multiple forces, and that's not a problem. And I'm slowly sort of buying now so that I can do it later, one force for each game I like, which again is quite easy. You know, you just wait for the deals, you know, you grab it when you can. I think all of us have got our stock of shame anyway, but mine's no longer a stock of shame, because I know I want to do a force for all the different games that I like, and by keeping my head and just doing one force for each game I like, it allows me to feel a bit more comfortable with my pile of shame. Finding a reason to not feel guilty. And I think I've done that, so that's not a good sign. But what it really does is it really focuses what you're looking to achieve. Now, I said, yes, it's criminal, I want to go back as 40k. And I've got a large guard army that I've sat on for probably a year and a half, 2 years, that's just slowly been growing in models. The Deathgore Krieg, very World War I-esque, with gas masks. And I'm looking forward to doing them, but I want to fit them in between the other armies. The smaller skirmish forces that I can do for Spectre and for Frostgrave and all these other gaming systems. And with that in mind, I was looking and thinking about moderns, and Scorback and I have talked about me picking up some of the Team Yankee, because we wanted to do some Cold War stuff. That's right, anybody? Because he's always on here first, he's always supporting me. So we were talking about, in one episode where it was mainly me and him, we were messaging back and forth about what he'd like to see. So we're looking at doing some Cold War. So yes, I have been looking at the British for Team Yankee 3, World War 3. North Ag have just come out, so that's an option. But mainly the idea is, obviously, it needs to be something I can play in my community. If possible, I'd like it to fit more than one rule system, so I don't have to do more and more armies. So I can have one army that will play 3 or 4 rule systems, and then over time, once I get one of every army of every game that I like, if that ever happens in my lifetime, I can then go to the ones that I've got one army for 3 rule systems. I can do a separate army for the other 2 rule systems, which I think would be quite nice. I don't feel the need to do 2 armies to get a game, because to be honest, playing is, yes, it's a key part of it, but it's not necessarily what drives me in the hobby. So that's kind of a good thing for me. Being that I like doing the painting and stuff, I don't feel like I need to play the game as long as I've got the minis painted. And I can always go to events instead, where I get absolutely smushed and have a great time doing it because I'm with the guys that are sort of non-competitive because they're at the bottom tables based on their army lists. I'm waffling away today, aren't I? Cool, that's that done. Now, with that in mind, yes, I can see a clear line for the neck. What I can't see is sort of, I need a dark line across the top of that just to break up the transition from t-shirt to neck. So while we've got this brown on the go, just going to thicken it up a little bit at the top to a bit of a different coloured collar. That's alright for now. We'll have a look at it again after. Nothing can be done 15mm as well as 10mm, same for Team Yankee. Exactly. So there's no point in me getting both North Hag and Team Yankee. I might as well get one force that will cover them both, be it 10 or 15mm. In all honesty, I think I'd probably do 15mm just because the models will be more detailed. It's just the truth of the scales. The higher the scale, the more detail it's likely to have. It's not necessarily always true, but it is in and around those 2 scales. G put some tanks out the other day at the various scales, and it was amazing the visual difference in size some of them have. I'm going to go with a Creed camo, which is a different type of green for that undershirt. So with that in mind, yeah, Team Yankee seems to be, well, the British force starters just a no-brainer for me. PSC is obviously in producing stuff now, but they've not got what I want right now. But what I am always struggling with is, most of the time I just want to build the armies. I'm not interested necessarily in playing the game, but I have to buy like the army books and stuff just to get access to what an army list looks like. I've got Battle Scribe, which helps. So that has a few games that shows you the army lists for, such as Bushido and Warhammer and some other stuff. Flames of War, Bolt Action. So that's kind of cool. They have online free army builders. I went to the Team Yankee one today, and you have to pay like $1 or something to be able to build your per block or something to be able to see what you're building. It's a really weird monetary thing. I've not come across that before at all. I feel like you don't want to. I didn't bother because of that, and I don't want to force. I don't want to just buy that starter box because I'd like some infantry. So I'd like to design a force. So I think I'm going to have to get the rulebook and go from there, really, because there's not many other options. Take some of that back off too much. But yeah, I think that's going to be the next sort of little project for myself when it comes to doing the painting tutorial stuff. Tutorial, chat and paint. It's not really a tutorial. It can be if you guys want, but you see most of what I do when we're having a chat and doing this. I'm just going to tidy up around the fingers a little bit. There was a bit just in here that I missed, which I noticed on the greens. There we go. It was like a real pit at the bottom. It's still got a little bit of the lighter colour from priming. Probably going to start changing the way I prime a little bit as well. I've got the airbrush and stuff now. I've still not cracked it open yet. I've had it for quite a long time. So I'm going to start zenithal highlighting using an airbrush rather than rattle cans, which is what I do at the minute. For most stuff, and for these I've just been using the Wraithbone contrast, which I'll use for like models that I'm not as worried about in future. These I used it because it's what you're meant to use with contrast, and I knew we'd mainly be using contrast. But like my Walking Dead stuff, I'm gonna, I've got a lot of zombies to do for that. So rather than zenithal height them, I'll just chuck on the Wraithbone contrast prime and paint them up from there. Quick bite of my chocolate bar. Got it all planned tonight. I think I got everything sorted tonight for the first time in a while. Normally I've screwed something up when I sit down. Microtransaction made it to our hobby now. Yeah. Oh, Drop Zone. Yeah, I do like the Drop Zone minis actually. Such a shame they got sort of handed off. It's not been the same since. Yeah, the fleet game seemed to kill them. Cool. Got a big lump of Mars bar stuck in my mouth. Whee. Right, while that's drying, we'll chuck the wash on the flesh areas. So I'll grab a bit of Reichland. Oh, I would say I'm getting low, but actually you look at it and it's still got quite a bit left. I'm just going to go straight from the pot, mainly because we've got a lighter skin tone than we normally start with. So again, it'll be interesting to see how this settles. What it reads as from nationality or whatever it is, the term is. The old questionnaire where you get Caucasian, different nations around the world listed, different skin colours perceived. It's really hard to be PC about that. Okay. Ooh, way too much. Filled the eye socket with Reichland, there's no flesh left. Let's get some moved over to this side. There we go. Yeah, it's not darkened it as down as I thought as much. Wow, that didn't make a sentence at all. It's not darkened down. It's not darkened it down as much as I thought it would. There we go. But we'll wait until it dries and then have another look. Might be that we do another layer of that. Right, so the boots. Start at the bottom, work our way up. So I'm just going to do a sort of patchy highlight using Ashen Grey. Yeah, he dropped out the game as well. That's a shame, dude. I know Rob. It's one of Commodore Rob's favourites. In fact, he has an absolute passion for it. I'd like to think there's still a tournament scene out there because TT Combat are not a small company and they can afford to support, even if it's just at their stock in their shop, whatever, a small tournament scene for that to keep people in the hobby for that brand. Excuse me. I know the Drop Fleet stuff they were releasing bits and bobs the other year at Gen Con, but I don't know if they had anything for Drop Zone. So these are like combat boots, which is a change. A lot of these models seem to have had trainers in recent times. It's nice to get back to the last couple of minis that have had actual sensible footwear for a war zone. Well, I suppose if you're a militia, you just go out and what you've got. That's one done. Cool. I've just had a thought. I don't think I took a photo of last week's mini. Put it onto sit rep. I don't remember doing that. I might have to have a look, see if it's there or not. If not, I might do it after this and stick it up. Weird how that it was probably in my head at some point, but then when we had the sort of the last of the season and the tribute to Andy Zek, I think that was on my mind more than anything else. So there's a good chance I've not done that at all. Fairly certain I haven't actually. Oh, so TT do run something, that's good. Oh, okay. So their second edition rules didn't do them any favours. Cool. That's the gun done for the first layer. Oh, that was the boom arm for the camera getting hit with the brush as I scratched my eyebrow. I think we'll leave the head cover for a little while and come back to that. Not as happy with the skin tone of this. You know what? We might have this as a Caucasian guy actually, like a sympathiser, which is why he's wearing the balaclava to be less recognisable. Quite like the idea of that. So the trousers, as we can see at this point, they're not bad. The mini's not bad overall. I think I'd be fairly happy with, if I yellowed out around the eyes at this stage, of this being at a tabletop standard. So, it's not ridiculous. But we'll smooth out these trouser areas a bit, tidy them up to get the light and the dark, because you can see that sort of patchy black line there, and then it's lighter around, then there's a really light bit behind the knee, and on the front where it's got all watery at the top, it's actually quite thin in places when I tip it into the light. So yeah, we'll have a play with the green once I find one that matches. Now that I've reorganised, I say organised, I've not reorganised, I've moved all my stuff around is probably a better way of putting it. It's going to take a second to find the correct layer for that. Lauren normally does alright, but no, it's a bit too... We went Warpstone last time. I think we went Warpstone last time, so we're going to go Warpstone, which is a little lighter, but when it's thinned down, it shouldn't have the coverage, it should have an opacity to it. Opacity? Opaque? Maybe. TTD, the largest. Gen Con tournament would have been the largest in years. Okay. Yeah, it definitely does have a lot of veteran players. A lot of people stuck by it when it went into problems, when it changed hands. I don't know if as many would have stayed with it if the design guy hadn't moved across with them at the same time. They took him on, didn't they, and fired, or had to get rid of pretty much the rest of the team. I never got. I don't know if we'll ever get the full story of what actually went so badly with the Kickstarter and everything else. How they ended up in that much of a problem, because they always sold really well at events and there was a hardcore following pretty much from the word go that we're buying everything that came out for one faction and then another faction. So yeah, a real unusual scenario to have gone through as a company. So I'm going to paint on the darker areas as well, just to bring them up a little bit, because I kind of like it to be less harsh than what it currently is. We'll keep it thin enough and moving around so that it does still show as dark, but not quite as punchy as what it is on that first pass with the contrast. I'm actually kind of looking forward to the downtime that the SitRep team have got coming up because of the podcast change. I know myself, I'm going to be doing painting content. Jim, I think, never quits, never surrenders. So he'll be back with more stuff as well for the Hex Encounters game. I think when the guys get to the point they start building the table, he's going to revisit the transit game for 13 days equals 13 hours from what's been discussed. So I imagine there'll be more awesome content of how to build those boards like he does for his various game systems, from Darkstar to the RPG modern HK Ops. So there'll be plenty of content, even though the podcast is taking its yearly, not year long, but yearly break. Season 4 came to the end. Sergeant Sitrep, he'll be having a play with that, seeing how he goes. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I need to think about how to base him and stuff, what era to set him in, and I kind of get the impression he's modern. I've not really looked at what gun he's got. I've got the file through. I've not actually gone through the file yet. I've had other projects to finish first. As you can see, this one we're currently doing right this second. I didn't want to fall into the magpie trap of, ooh, look at this, and then chucking it all together and then missing out on doing something I should have been doing. Yeah, the Watchdog Glow's gone quite well. I am going to sit down at some point and match a number of the layer paints to the contrasts so that I know if we do that green, this one's the green to come to bring it up and clean up the lines. I think that'd be quite handy to have. I know you don't necessarily need any of it because that's not the idea of contrast, but it depends what you're using contrast for. Oh, I did watch Bat 2-1 the other day. I think I mentioned it on one of Jim's podcasts to do with the Vietnam games he's been running. I've managed to find it on bloody YouTube of all places. Bit of Danny Glover, Gene Hackman, shot down behind enemy lines. Bat 2-1. Based on a true story as well. Yeah, based on. I'm always very wary of that statement. Been looking into what's best to strip miniatures recently. Kind of mixed bag, you know. I've got one resin that I think will melt in most things, which is concerning. But it's only one model, so if it does go wrong, I'm not that drastically worried about it. I'm in another community. My mate Liam Dempsey, he runs his own sort of little Discord and channel. So I've been chatting with the guys in that about what they use. And so, what you guys out there, do you ever strip a model? You know, do you buy the odd one that's not in a good condition to get it at a good price and then strip it after? Or I think the other thing is what's available where in countries. It's something like Bio Strip 20 is what these guys have advised. Does seem to do a good job. I've watched a couple of reviews on it. I watched a couple of live videos on it. I liked one in particular was very good because he, whether he did or didn't, I suppose he could manage with the software of an editor, but he essentially put a clock in the shot and ran it for 30 minutes. You know, at a speeded up rate so that the balls, first balls as we're talking, and not. I just literally got a full dollop on my brush and chucked it on the back of his knee. Didn't take any excess off. Which was nice to have a live counter on it, really, so you could see him put them in and take them out, and then without leaving the shot, use a brush as well to give you an indication of what actually you removed. Simple Green and a Sonics cleaner at times. Okay. Simple Green was one of the ones that actually came up on that as well. The Sonic cleaners I've always found to be really weird. I don't really see the bonus because with airbrushes, people get them to clean the parts, but I regularly see people take them out and they're just as bad as they would have been if they'd just chucked them in a static. With jewellery, where you need to get into very small crevices to release almost just skin and dust, yes. To remove paint from something, it's I think the brush method's still my preferred choice. And if I've got to do that anyway, if I use a sonic cleaner, I don't really see the point in having done the sonic cleaner bit at all and added that expense. It's a bit like UV curers for resin metals. Some people believe it should be, and some people believe it doesn't. So we've toned down the trousers and smoothed them out nicely. I think what we're just going to do now is just add a little bit of a lighter colour to bring there just a final little highlight. Rather than go all the way to white, I'm just going to grab some pallid witch flesh. Once I've shook it. Pure Dettol and leave it overnight. I mean, I could strip them with methylated spirits if I leave them, clean them, leave them, clean them. But I'd rather just have something that's a little more a one shot. Put them in for 30 minutes, an hour, or overnight, and then come back, and I know I can pretty much clean the whole thing and then toothpick out the last bits the next day. Is the goal. Cool. Right, so just to highlight to insert in a couple of places with a lighter green. So the main reason I'm doing this today is there's not as much ridgeline work on these trousers as we've had on many of the minis. So when we did the cleanup, they did look a little more flat than what we've had for some of the other minis, and I didn't want it to sort of have that resonate that way as a not very detailed model when it has got some nice details. Some are just a bit more need a bit of love to bring out. Keep doing that side till it's done. I'm not going to go all the way up on that because we want the jacket to give it some shadow. Do for that side. No washes today, just paint. Well, up to yet. Who knows by the end. You did get a UV light for speed. Yeah, that's fair. I've found it does make them brittle. I actually don't UV light or put them in the windowsill at all anymore. I handle them with gloves, clean them up, and then prime them, and they're really flexible. So I've stopped using UV to cure the resin completely now, which is probably really bad, but makes cleanup a lot quicker. Yeah, I gave mine about 5 minutes in under a UV lamp, then put it on the table, and it kind of just fell over, as in stayed on the table, no drop or anything, and snapped an axe off. And it was a lovely clean break and what you'd expect from resin. And I'd done 2 of that model. Oh, well, I say that model, like the Yumi Bowman. That I've got 2 that are almost the same. And I flexed the other one, and that had not been under the UV lamp yet, and I could pretty much push it 10 or 15 degrees without it having any. And as a test, I dropped it on the table next to the one I'd just snapped because I was going to have to go back to the printer anyway. It didn't break, and then I dropped it from the table to the floor, and I dropped the other one on another point that was very similar, and one snapped and one didn't, so I just stopped doing it now. Well, throwing them off the table, that is. And curing them as well. Cool. Happy with that. So, you see there's just a little bit of light spots now. We've added a bit more texture. Hopefully that'll come out in the photos a little more when we get it under proper light. Sweet. Quick slurp of my drink. I think we'll go back to the gun and the boots just to get them out of the way. I'm going to use some Dawnstone as a final sort of highlight on them. You reckon they're too flopsy? I don't know. That might be an FDM thing then. It being off a reel rather than something that's already been UV cured in the machine. Let me see. So here's one of the ones I haven't cured. And that's deliberate. Whereas if I'd have done that on the last one, it would have just snapped straight away. On stone is done. See, there's the next big question for me as well. Is the I was about to start on the gun when I should start on the boot. What modern game to go for? Well, no, that's not true. The game is any game really. What modern set of miniatures that fits one the most games and two that I really like? Because we're kind of spoilt these days between Empress and White Dragon, and there's just so many interesting companies now that are doing nice modern miniatures. And what sort of game level? I'd associate that with being a 28mm skirmish, you know, the Spectre type game, Contact Front, etc. Sangin. So yeah, it's going to be and who to do as well. Do I want to be British military? Because I'm from the UK and all that, and do I want to go Taliban insurgent, which would be quite interesting. I love the idea of guys on the back of motorcycles with RPGs. So lots to think about with that one, and an order to put in as well for some minis. Initially, I was drawn to White Dragon. I'll be as a sort of a start point, and that was because of the guys on the bikes. But I know Empress do some really nice stuff as well. There's a difference there in materials to consider, and so I think Empress is less heroic, and I normally prefer real scale. Like your one seems to have the same flex. Yeah, that's true as well, dude. It might be because mine have a kind of high detail, so they might be more brittle due to trying to be sharper in detail. That's probably likely, in fact. Yeah, the resin. Well, there's so many variables in just one print: humidity, temperature, um, the actual settings, the type of resin, the environment it's in, if there's any vibration through the table, etc. What the contact points are going to be like, and yeah, it's like anything these days. There's so many variables you can rarely, if ever, do the same thing twice the same way. Slurp on a drink. So the gun's got some colour on it now. Oh, there's the clapping for the NHS. Forgot all about it. I always seem to be doing this. Fireworks as well. Cool. So that's that and that. And that's good. Right, so jacket next. Run it on 0.2 as well, the resin printer. We can see that the resin makes a big difference when printing the same model twice. Yeah, I've got a 27-hour print on at the minute. So it's the other half of it was the larger part of that base actually, with all the holes in ready. So it's almost vertical just to fit on the bed. This will be interesting. I'll check it before I go to bed and hopefully see if it's even started okay, because if it's not, I might as well just scrap it and start again. And reposition all the stuff. So we want this brown to be a nice light brown. Should have a couple of them now. That Questa Flesh from before, what's that like? It's probably a little too red. Blood Reaver Flesh, a little too red. I might be going with that Gothar Brown again. Yeah, we'll have a play with that one. That's close. See if it's close enough. With it thinned down again, hopefully it'll be okay. Well, weekend's nearly here, guys. Hopefully you've all got a bit of time to do some hobby, those of you that are not working the weekend. What are we all going to be up to? For me, a bit more printing. I'm basically having a sort out this weekend, getting some lists together of what I want to pick up. I've got some new felled hair boxes for the stuff I've got, so I'm going to do some cutting out of the sponge and get the positions prepped for the models that I'm working on now. I need to pick up a couple more Flames of War bits to finish out my German force so that it'll work for 1,000 points at both Fortress Europe and D-Day. So that's going to be another tick in the box. That'll be another army that is done and I probably won't come back to for quite a long time. So yeah, what if any plans have you guys got for anything hobby related or projects that you want to do, even if you can't get to them this weekend? I've been thinking about that one you talked about, Jimmy Rack. Looking into getting the forces for that. I think you said you had an American force and it'd be a problem to get was it the T-54s would be the tough one to get for the enemy forces. It actually sits almost the same colour as the bit that's on, which is really nice. And I think by the time it's dried, because it's just a touch darker, and mostly when stuff dries, it dries a bit lighter. From what I've seen of what I use, it'll be a good match. Trying to tidy up some of the darker brown spots, and lighten up the areas that should have been a lighter brown, but managed to hold on to the ink a bit more in the top half of the model as well. Ink? Contrast. I think I said. I have no idea what I just said. I was concentrating on this and not what I was saying. No idea. Nice and thin. Yeah, you can see on the top of the shoulders and the arm, they're quite dark, even at the front here. I know it should have some shadow, but that's a pretty drastic shadow. So we'll put a layer on, let it dry, and see what that looks like. I don't mind the underside of it, so we're on that edge there rather than do much to the underside. Happy that can be very, very dark. Oh, got a couple more messages. Halfway through a 16-hour print of I take it that's the Dragon Empire Swordsman and the Shogun. The Shogun was a lovely model. I brought out a Swordsman earlier, actually. That's one of the things we were looking at. D&D and the wife's birthday. I guess that could be called hobby. That's not just hobby, that's hobby that gets you brownie points as well with the wife. D&D, happy days. Been doing a bit of Warhammer roleplay with a couple of mates and a bit of Call of Cthulhu on online this week as well. What's Jim said? The Type 59, I think it says 2s, had to be kit bashed. That was it. And they might try to paint some. Oh, Rasmus is back then. Might try to paint some Dragon Empire or some Infinity. Oh, that's cool. Which force are you going for Infinity? That'd be interesting. As did the M60A1. It's from the US Marine Corps. All done. So, from what I remember, Jim, you have pretty much got a armor predominant US Marine Corps force for. When are we saying then? What sort of, are we talking 91, 92 in the preparation to the run-up and 93 engagement, or have you got a specific, because I know you love your history, what was your building block to start from for your force? Because I have been looking, I think one thing I've got as an option, you see, is the STLs. I can print a lot of stuff. So although I might not be able to find the miniature from a company for something for an Iraqi force or a Republican Guard force, there's a good chance I can print it or find a file to print it somewhere online. Whether that costs me money or it's a free file, who knows? But it does open some interesting options. Gulf War 91. Yeah, I thought it was 91. From Infinity, all of them. He's a bit light on the aliens, though. What's your favourite Infinity one, Rasmus? That's another one I need to get a force for. I'm thinking Hack Islam, actually, for that one. I like sort of the desert freedom fighter stuff, but I've heard they're one of the harder forces to use. But like I've said before, there's a good chance I'll never actually play it because nobody in my community does, and having the nice minis, because they are lovely minis, and the metals, which is really cool, is definitely on the project list. The new game, the new version that's got a lighter rule set has really appealed to me as well, to be honest. We're having to be honest to be the word of the day today, it seems. I thought I'd had my Mars bar. No, I've got 1 bite's worth left. Nom 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 nom. I got some Jammy Dodgers biscuits for a brew later. Oh, Republican Guard would be easy. Was it just the US Marine Corps force then that was difficult to do? Or will be difficult to do? The Nomads, because they're a bit mad. It says Nomad, and yet they're mad. How does that work? So it's going to bring up the colour on the shoulders to match some form of lighting. That was way too thick. Grab a bit of water. There we go. You can tell it's that thick, it's managed to go all the way across the shoulders and onto the other arm. I like this brown as a starting point. And all this, there's so much extra detail in the mini that I didn't think was there, in all these little pocks and rough edges. I'd like to think that that's not poor metal casting and is detail that's been left alone for you to work with. And to be honest, based on the other minis and doing quite a few forms of jackets and stuff, they were all quite smooth, so I think that's deliberate. And that's a big thumbs up to Spectre and the sculptor and the production process, if that's true. Very, very cool. It's such a natural looking feature. Such a nice touch. If it's, like I say, even if it's not genuine, the final result is still very, very good. Well, I've not looked at the clock for a bit. How are we doing? 1 hour and 43, so probably a little behind on the 2 hour clock. If we were trying to do this in 2, I think it'll run to maybe 2:15, 2:20, we'll see. We shall see. Just catching some edges, making sure they're nice and clean and light in colour. clean the brush. What have we had? I was only building US Marines, and the US Marine Corps didn't fight Republican Guard in 91, so I was building US Marine Corps and Standard Iraqi Army, not Republican Guard. Okay. Code 1 does not have the hack in it, only 4 forces. Yeah, I saw that, but I can't see them not doing eventually, putting them in. Oh, you've got 3 hack motorbike. Back to motorbikes again. Maybe it's that. Maybe that's why I like Taliban on motorcycles. I like Hack Islam as well, for maybe that reason. It's gone all quiet now. Outside. Must have finished the thanking of the NHS for this week. I think it gets a bit muddy in history when I'm trying to pick a force for that, because there's so many. I'd love to do a Roman force. Again, lots of nice minis out there, lots of options, but knowing what rule set to go for that becomes the key thing. So although a lot of the rule sets have the same models, when it comes down to pointage and force construction or limitations, they're often very different. So having something legal for multiple game systems becomes more problematic. And then having access to the rules without having bought them, as in army builders and such, to help. Otherwise you're buying 4 or 5 different rule sets for games that you may never even play, purely to build a force that's legal. It kind of sucks, but is understandable for the producers of the games, because they're not reliant on somebody that's not going to play. I think we're done on the jacket portion, except for the collar. Yep, just the collar left. Doubt they'll put in any more forces in Code 1, okay. They used to make it a small set for SKUs to not overwhelm the FLGS. I'd have thought they'd have done one for every faction still. I thought, from how it was described, I thought it was to be a less rule heavy version for people to use for that reason, and then to not have some of the factions would limit the impact of that if the ones that they've brought out don't grab you. That'd be a shame if they don't just do, or just, I don't necessarily mean do a set of models as much as put acceptable lists together, so you could just buy the models or use models you've already got. I don't know how, I've not read the rules or anything, so I don't know if that's the idea of it or not, where there's actually lists where you can generate from models that are already out there and already exist, or if they're producing new ones, for purely new ones for that game, and you have to use those ones. Cool. So jacket's done, trousers are done, guns done, jacket's done, boots done. Have a look at the skin, and then we're back up to the headdress and the chest bit. So, I'm actually going to use a bit of, yeah, I think I will today. I'm going to grab a bit of pallid witch flesh and just bring up the colour on the gun just a little bit. It's a little too generalised, the grey. So we don't always do this, but we vary the AKs to be dull and some of them are a little brighter. This is a much better weapon system, so I can see him keeping good care of it. So we're just going to sci-fi it up a little bit with a little bit of off-white in the form of pallid witch flesh is the idea. Might have got this too thin. Yeah, I think we're there. So it's a bit more stark now in places. Cool. Most of the models that are in there are the old models. Alright, yeah, so you could run all four with what you already have. Just to give a simple way and a smaller number of models, not have hundreds of each faction as in the main game. Okay. Alright, so Gen Con. I'll have to have a think about that then. I'll have to have a think. Right. I'm going to Reichland. No, I'm going to Reichland or Sepia. I'm going to grab some Sepia. So a bit of shades, Seraphim Sepia on this t-shirt under here. Definitely want to run it all the way down. I want to leave a bit of a stain around the top. And this, where we put that little brown bit in before. That'll give me a visual start point for this, for us to throw this on, and at the same time this should darken down that brown as well, making it a bit more shadowed towards the chin. Alright, where's my Wraithbone? So I'm going to grab my Wraithbone, which therefore gives me a matching colour to go with what we did the initial prime of this mini. Yeah, I can see that it does make that entry point easy. It's just a shame it's not an entry point for each army, it's just an entry point for 4. Because I think one of Infinity's biggest draws is the fact that minis are lovely, but the other ones I actually like a lot are Hacky Slam. The rest, I think, there's some okay ones and there's some good ones, but the ones I really like are those. So if they're not an option, then I don't think I'll be buying in for for the to the Infinity one, code 1. So we're tidying up the areas to yellow now that we've done the stuff that's pretty much around them. Try and get some nice clean lines because yellow needs won't show where the black is pretty much. So by having some nice clean lines we can be a little less neat really with the yellow. It's not got the pigment strength in yellow on black to screw it all up, he hopes. Cool. So we've tidied up those areas at the top. I think we'll go back and do a bit of etching grey just to highlight up the top of the head. Wrong way. We'll use Dawnstone as a start point. That would have been a bit problematic, being it's a very light grey. How are we doing for time? So yeah, we're pushing about 2 hours, and we're not far off actually. I did say about probably 15:15 and 20 past, so not doing too bad. But then I've got to this stage before and then really struggled, so admittedly that was with a face, which I don't have to worry about today. Just a nice change. So it's been interesting to do the painting where literally trying to keep them around 2 to 2.5 hours. It's been the odd one, like the tracksuit guy and stuff, that we've pushed out the boat on them. Gone out to, I think, used about 4 hours, and a couple of the other more complicated minis. In fact, there's been some minis where it took that long, but I was never expecting it. Which is kind of weird. You look at a mini and it's just skin or a single or a couple of colour systems, and then suddenly you're spending 2.5, 3 hours on it because it's just gone that way. Sundays might try the Battle of Murlop in Panzerleader. Murdop, sorry. Looking at small print. 13th of May 1940, also called the Battle of Hanut, or Gamblo, I want to say. Might find out if it's... Yeah, they might do if it's a success. Sorry, Gamblo. 2 French DLM, so light mechanised divisions against 3rd Panzer Division, and 29 of the 4th... Okay. Wow, that's a real set too, with armour and stuff then. History's first large battlefield tank battle. 80th anniversary was yesterday. Oh, that'd be cool then. Hitting a lot of anniversaries then at the minute, which is because there were so many battles in that first push, that campaign. Like you say, there was a lot of the big stuff was right from off the go as well. So yeah, lots to look forward to from Jim then. Make sure you check that out. I'm sure he'll finalise the details and put them up on the SitRep page or on Facebook. I'll do this one and then log my hours for today. I think we're getting quite a few now. I think I'm over 50 hours now in painting and stuff, which is nice. It's been good to get back on the wagon, get used to filming on camera. Seems weird now. I was so nervous the first time. Mind you, to be honest, most of the time I get the same guys, which is really nice. Get Skolbach, Rasmus, Jim, Seabrenner. Who else do we get sometimes? We get Gareth, Tonka. You get G's pops in sometimes. Marty sometimes. For the most part, it's the same crowd. My mate Steve sometimes gets on when he's not chasing one of his 7 children around. Okay, so reasonably happy with that. I think we might tidy it up a little bit with some Northern oil. But in the meantime, yellow. That should be easy to find. He says, oh, time for a quick drink. Yeah, there we go. So I'll start off with a bit of Uriel yellow, which is kind of one of the darker ones actually, even though it doesn't look as dark on this. I don't know if I can. There you go. You can see it's a bit more of a. It's a nice strong start point, and then we can come up to a lighter yellow once that's dry, and I can repair some areas with the Northern oil in between. Oh, I just knocked a hand off my model. Luckily, that's one of the bits that's super glued, which is a good sign if the the resin hasn't broken, but the super glue did. That's a much better option. Excuse me. Oh. First couple of streams we did were sacking, were nerve-wracking. All right, there we go. And stressful, and now he's very mellow. God, that made me jump. The can just popped back into shape next to me. I'm glad I didn't have the brush near the model. I'd have had a lot of repair work to do. As it is, I might need to change my shorts when I'm finished. I nearly went red for this, but we've done so many red and black combos because it's such a good combo. I kind of wanted to just do something a little different. This red and yellow is quite nice actually. It's strong and it's actually coated a little bit of the black, which is surprising just. So I'll leave that for a sec. Gotta be subtle on the battlefield, eh? In fact, we can do a quick patch repair with the grey that we've already got out. So a little dot of yellow came up at the centre there. Cool. Cool. And then we'll do with the skin. I'm going to come back to the Cadian flesh tone a little bit and just tidy that up. So I'm just going to water some down and bring the tone up as a bit of a highlight. And that should be enough. Let's have a look. Start somewhere easy to get to and repair. Do the thumb on this side. I think I actually forgot to wash that. There's bound to be somewhere, wasn't there? Yeah, that's cool. And we'll lighten the yellow a bit with some Flash Kits yellow. That's really bright. So I'm going to let that dry, I think, and bring it down with some Cassandora. Just take the edge off it, because he's definitely standing out on the battlefield, isn't he? One thing I do want to re-establish, though, after I picked up my brush, is I've lost one of the gaps that should be black. So we'll get some black Templar and sort that out. Put some onto the palette so I've something to work with. Get that across there. Yeah, happy with that. And on the headdress, couple of places. Right, so I'll do some edge tidying. Might have if I keep it in shot, eh? Just shoot for the yellow. Waiting to see the yellow around his eyes, apparently. It's his favourite ski mask. His mum got it him for his birthday. Never does anything without it. Well, when he needs to hide his identity, that is. Slip it round, get through the top side. Oh, flip. Ballsed it. Straight back into the yellow, clean the brush. Nasty slip. It's one of those moments where I should have been less interested in keeping it in the shot than getting the job done right. It's a bit one of the awkward things about painting on camera. Sometimes you do silly things to keep the shot. Hence, more mistakes than normal. A lot more. That's a really bad angle for me. I've done it again. Yeah, I'll have to sort that out with yellow. But that's the tidy up of the edges done, hopefully. Let's just muck it up again. We shall see. A victim of the trickle-down economics. It's the government's fault. Give me all your money. Well, we've got the gangster-looking guy with the goldy chain on. This is his favourite bank robber, it seems. I want your money, your jewels, and your ambassador. There we go. Much better. Alright, let that dry a sec. We'll try a bit of Seraphim Sepia. Can't quite see if there's any eye detail in these sockets. So I'm going to switch to a darker brown, the Sepia, rather than the Reichland, which is normally what I'd use for flesh. And see what we can produce. If there's any detail in there at all. Doesn't look like it. That one might have on this side. difficult to tell. Difficult to tell. I can't tell when I'm sat here, so probably not. It's probably a little bit, but under these conditions I can't see it. Sweet. So, knock the camera. A little bit of yellow. Wash. I'm trying to rim the inside to get the orange into the recess on the inside to give it some depth of shadow rather than it just be yellow. Let's get the underside of there. It's like a couple of white bits above the eyes and above the mouth. One in the mouth there and one above each eye there. So we're going to go back to the darker yellow to try and get in there without screwing it up too much. There we go. I think we're there. Let's have a quick once over, make sure I've not screwed anything up too badly. So we have the final of my 13 days equals 13 hours militia guys. And black boots, sort of a dark green set of combat trousers, maybe some lightweights, heavy janitor's brown jacket. We'll do a highlight on the gun quickly. Bit paler skin on this guy, black mask. We could have gone with red, which would probably have been my first choice if we hadn't done so much of it on other things. Instead we went with the yellow. So yeah, I think just that one little bit to highlight that I missed, and that we'll call it there for today. What will we use for a highlight? In fact, we'll use some Talon sand. Bit of Talon sand for a highlight on the butterstock. So that's coming up on 2 hours 20. So yeah, pretty much where we said. Thanks very much for popping in, guys, and supporting us as we get another mini painted. I know these tend not to get a lot of views. They get maybe 5 or 6 views after you guys have gone, so it's always nice to have a few guys in supporting, doing the painting. Hope you all have a great weekend, as we're pretty much there now. The weekend starts now and all that, and get some nice hobby done. Get your Rubicon stuff through. Pick up your Infinity or your Last Pirates, depending on how it goes. Jim, I know you'll be busy putting together your game for Sunday, so pop in and check out Jim's game on Sunday if you've got the time. It's going to be 1940, another tank battle with French versus the Panzer regiments, so that's going to be a very interesting one. Looking forward to that. And yeah, I think we're done. So stay safe out there, guys. Have a great one, and I'll see you probably next week. Actually, I'll get a Sergeant Sit Rep finished. We'll get that printed off, and we'll see how he looks. Check out his beard, and go from there. So again, thanks to all the guys that came in. So cheers to Riskiny, cheers to Brenner, cheers to Rasmus, cheers to Skolback. I think that's all we had tonight. If I've missed anybody, apologies, but thank you for taking the time to watch, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care out there, guys. Bye bye.